Hello and welcome to That's the Point. Our studios in Florida today are under hurricane watch, so kind of had to call an audible on this and do this video solo again. But that's our commitment to construction technology. Even in adverse weather events, we're here for you. By the way, my name is Corey Meyer. Today we are going to talk about something that we've tried to quite honestly avoid over the past couple years because it's one of those kind of it depends topics. Because today we're going to talk about tablet batteries and specifically the health and performance of those tablet batteries. We've avoided this video intentionally because you can easily careen off into a conceptual ditch. Realistically, like perceived battery issues can be caused by a myriad of different factors and issues, and they can actually disguise some real root cause in the lack of tablet performance as well. So this episode can kind of be bucketed into the it depends category here on That's the Point. But there are some big ideas that we want to discuss specifically as it relates to battery health and battery maintenance. So first of all, let's talk about the batteries that are actually in your tablet. Today we're talking about Trimble's modern tablets. So today we specifically have a T100, but we're talking about the T10X. In this case, in both of these cases, they have lithium-ion batteries. This chemistry is remarkably stable for a battery, and regardless of some of those crazy internet videos you might have seen of phones melting down or turning into thermite plasma, lithium ion is by far the most common chemistry for electronics and is used in quite literally billions of devices. So they're relatively consistent and resistant to during temperature changes, but we'll talk about that in a second. Here's the reality. With all batteries, lithium ion included, you will see a degradation of capacity over time. As a battery is charged and discharged, what we call a charging cycle, some capacity is absolutely lost. That is why your 3-year-old cell phone doesn't seem to last as long as it did when you first purchased it. It's not your imagination, and your tablet, and your Trimble tablet, is no different. So today, let's quickly talk about your battery's capacity and what you can do to maximize the health and longevity of that battery into the future. So first off, if you're watching this video and you're thinking to yourself, my battery's great, well, you could skip to the end and we'll talk about best practices and maintenance. But if you're feeling like your tablet battery is significantly underperforming, then this area here is the starting point for you. Because when we have someone call into the help desk and they start to describe a scenario where they have a fully charged battery at 7 a.m. and by 10 a.m. it's dead, well, that's a red flag. And the battery might, and I put might, be the culprit. If you charge the battery on a Friday night, unplugged it from the charger, and on Monday morning the unit is dead, that, again, might be a battery issue. But to be clear, Trimble tablets that run Windows do use a BIOS level setting. So in the very base of the tablet, of the field computer, they do have a setting that we use for what we call fast boot that does use some power to ensure a quick restart and a boot process. So some power loss day to day is intentional and actually shows normal operation of the Trimble tablet. But the best practice, just to be safe, is we always want to charge our tablet immediately before we take it to the field. But let's say you're more in the more extreme camp, right? You're absolutely convinced that your battery is not performing like it used to. Well, you're going to reach out to support, and the first thing our desk is going to ask for is a battery report. And we can actually run one of those at any time. So Windows has a pretty decent battery tool built right inside of it, and that's what the desk uses. So on this tablet that we have open right now, it's a T100. I'm just going to go into the search bar at the bottom, and I'm going to pull up the keyboard, and I'm just going to type CMD. That's going to pull up our command prompt, right? So I'm going to select the command prompt. We're going to go to that old school DOS prompt. We love that. And we're just going to type in a simple command. So we're going to type in power config. Make sure we spell that right. We're going to do a space, then we're going to do a slash, and then we're going to type battery report. And this is on screen as well. Make sure my spelling is right. And then we're going to hit enter. And now it says battery life report, save to file path, C users Trimble battery report, which makes sense because we use all of our tablets are basically the Trimble default. So that is the path that we have here. So the file, it's now telling us the file is stored in users and Trimble. So we can close that and we can close this. And now we can go to our file explorer. It's our basic Windows file explorer. We'll go to C drive, right? And then we'll go to the users and then we'll go to Trimble. And right down there at the bottom, we can see the HTML file that was generated and it's called battery report. So we can then tap on that and it's going to bring up that specific battery report. So this is the file that the support desk will likely want to see to start to understand the health of the battery. Now, here we go. There is a lot of info in this report and it's highly subjective and honestly, it's not all that relevant to what we're looking for. So this has a huge disclaimer, huge, massive disclaimer as far as that's the point series go. Be careful. This data is not as straightforward as it might seem. It's heavily dependent upon charging cycles and everything else. So that being said, we do think that there is an interesting section that we like to take a look at. So on this older tablet, right, we can scroll down and there's gonna be a battery capacity history section. And it's right here in the middle. And we can see that it begins to list every time that we have a full charging cycle. And this was, we started turning on this tablet in 2 of 22, right? So 2 of 2022, so February. And so it's over 2.5 years old. And we can now start to see some data. Every time that cycle has been logged, we're able to get a historical measurement of both the design capacity, which is on the right-hand side, and the full charge, the actual capacity, on the left-hand side. And this is interesting because we can now see over time the capacity, the complete capacity of the batteries that are in the unit. Now, the design capacity is the stated capacity. We can see just from the first entry that full charge is actually able to get up higher than the design capacity. That's not odd at all. And so what we then do is we're going to scroll to the bottom, so the most recent entry, and we can see that we have 88,337 milliwatt hours was the capacity of that battery. Now that's an interesting data point because we can compare the top and the bottom numbers, right? So we started out with 97,680. We ended up 2.5 years later with 88,337. So just doing back of the napkin math, that means that over time, we've lost about 9% of the total capacity of the battery. So that's what we're looking for with this report. So you can see that over time, yeah, sure, we've lost some battery capacity, but I would be willing to argue that in this particular case, 9% over 2.5 years of regular use, almost every day with this computer, that is a really good result. So that is a pretty real world kind of reconciled look at how we see these tablets. And this is precisely what the support desk will start to look at. Again, this is not a smoking gun or a magic bullet report, and whatever firearm analogy we want to use here. It does help to have a better picture of what's going on with your tablet battery. And maybe you just might think it actually is your imagination. This is a good way to kind of check that. So that brings us to the next question. So how do you ensure that you're maximizing the life and the efficiency of your battery? And a lot of these tips are universal and not just related to your Trimble tablet, but you can absolutely do several things to keep your battery and to help to make sure that your battery remains healthy. The first thing to remember is charging cycles. Remember that charge-discharge cycle that we had? That's the largest factor in your battery health over a long period of time. If you're fully charging and depleting your battery every day, your battery capacity will diminish more quickly than a tablet that only needs to be fully charged and is discharged once a week. So honestly, if your tablet is in the field every day, I mean, obviously this is something we can't really avoid. It's just something to keep in mind. The next thing that we want to think about is we want to make sure that we minimize other apps and tasks on your tablet so you don't have to recharge as quickly. This can certainly help. Do not run a ton of not Trimble tasks on the tablet to preserve some battery life and reduce recharges. And also keep in mind, along that same vein, that we like to make sure that Wi-Fi is not connected at all times if you're not using it, especially in challenging job site environments, right? If we have weak Wi-Fi, if we have maybe a Wi-Fi signal that's intermittent in and out, that does put a strain on the battery that you can otherwise just avoid by just disabling Wi-Fi when you're out in the field actually collecting points or doing scans or whatever you're doing with your Trimble tablet. So that can greatly save battery life day to day. The next area is doing a full power off when your tablet work is completed. Now, no one's going to argue hibernation, the sleep functions of your Trimble tablet are very convenient, but sleep does use significantly more power than a full-blown power down and shutdown. So you want to make sure when you come in here to your tablet and you hit that and you're done for the day, there's nothing wrong with just hitting the shutdown button and just doing a complete shutdown rather than just letting the tablet go to sleep on its own, which is just a lessened state of being powered on. And also, don't be afraid to lower the screen brightness during environments where you're able to not run at full brightness. So obviously, if you're on the top deck, you need all the brightness that you can muster to be able to kind of preserve that, to be able to view your screen. But when you're in dark areas or inside or under deck, it's much easier to just knock that brightness down. It's amazing how much power is consumed by the very, very bright screens on these Trimble tablets. And finally, the last thing we would say is avoid extreme temperatures in storage. Job boxes, some places where we store these tablets can get very, very hot. And for some of our other people, very, very cold, right? So keeping the battery away from those temperatures that we find on maybe Mars and Venus would be advisable for the long-term health of your battery. Now, with these simple concepts, you can help to eke out a little bit more performance out of your battery over the long term. But battery chemistry is science, and we want to reiterate that. Batteries do degrade over time, but with proper handling, your Trimble tablet should perform reliably and consistency in the field for all of your daily tasks. Of course, if you need additional help, your Building Point representative is here to lend a hand. These battery issues can be sneaky, and as we said at the beginning, they can sometimes mask or hide other issues that are actually the culprit behind impaired runtime or lack of battery life during the day. So your Building Point specialist is definitely the perfect resource to help you accurately diagnose the root cause of any issues you might have. And of course, don't forget, smash that subscribe button, stay up to date with the latest tips, tricks, and pointers. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on That's the Point.